Hello there, in this video I'm going to show you a rudimentary basic stretch technique for stretching the hamstring muscles using Pilates principles and your awareness of your lumbar-pelvic neutral, your center and the regional anatomy. So the hamstrings are essentially two joint muscles, meaning they cross the hip joint and the knee joint, with the exception of the short head of the biceps femoris. That's the case throughout. And it's important to be aware of that if you're going to stretch them efficiently, because a lot of people will try and stretch their hamstrings and actually just end up curving their back, which is not particularly helpful for a number of reasons. This rudimentary stretch starts from the rest position, so that's lying on your back with your knees bent and with a neutral spine already in play. If you're not familiar with that, have a look at the video I've done on the rest position, but it is basically halfway between a fully posteriorly tilted pelvis and a flattened back and a fully anteriorly tilted pelvis and an arched back. So normally that's going to be about a fingertip gap for most people. This is your start position, and you bring your desired stretch leg up so you can grab the back of that thigh with the fingers interlocked and then just relax that leg to start. At this point, double check that you feel you're in a neutral pelvic position, because the hamstrings attach to your sit bone, which is on your pelvis, and they attach distal to the knee. And as we're going to now move this insertion past the knee into a stretch position, that's going to begin to lengthen the hamstrings. Now, if you go up and stretch your leg, you'll get to a point where you feel a pull. What you don't want to happen is to go beyond the point where the hamstring has length to stretch to, because that will pull the origin of the muscle on the sit bone, the ischial tuberosity, up with it. And you classically see people flatten their back, their tailbone will protrude off the mat, and it kind of looks and feels like you're getting a hamstring stretch, but the pelvis has moved and the origin of that muscle has also moved. We need to fix the origin, move the insertion, and then we get our desired stretch. Now you're just going to a mild to moderate pull. You're using the quadriceps to straighten the knee, and that generates a relaxation effect in the antagonistic muscle group, which in this case is the hamstrings. And by doing that and simultaneously maintaining your lumbar-pelvic neutral, your Pilates center, you're going to get a nice, efficient, gentle hamstring stretch. And gentle is important. You don't want to really push into significant stretch feeling when you're doing this type of stretch. Now you notice that I had my ankle straight. I tend to recommend that people do that to begin with, because if you do it with your ankle bent, you tension the sciatic nerve chain running down the posterior aspect of the leg, and that can confuse things a little bit. And sometimes it will either mask or give a false sense of stretch, and it can potentially tweak things along that element. It is the concept behind things like nerve flossing, but that's for another time. The final variation I would do for this is to stretch the other leg. A lot of people prefer this technique. So from your centered start position, slide the legs into a simultaneously straight position. And this way, this leg will also kind of anchor the pelvis in that anterior rotation origin. It's not going to twist it, but it just prevents that pelvis from rolling backwards when you get to that stretch position. It also opens up the front of the hip for you, so it's kind of like a double stretch here. Now, from this point, there's a little bit of debate about stretch duration, and that's certainly something to explore. I would normally recommend that for that passive rudimentary stretch, you're going to your stretch position for between 15 and 30 seconds, and you're making sure that it's a mild to moderate pull only. Anything longer than that, it's debatable what's going on if you're just doing that passive sustained stretch. I will do other videos discussing different types of stretching for the hamstrings, but for now, that uses the Pilates principles to make sure that you're maintaining the correct position while you stretch, and then just getting more efficiency to your hamstring stretching program.